All righty, we are live.
Okay. Greetings to you. I'm Brother James Muhammad. First and foremost, please allow us to apologize for the delayed opening of our broadcast. We were experiencing some technical difficulty, as it is referred to. However, we are proceeding as planned. So, we want to welcome you to Closing the Gap broadcast this evening. We're hosting a very special guest with a very special message titled The Chemistry of God. And we're going to get right into it. However, for those of you who are not familiar with our guest, we certainly want to familiarize you to the point or to the extent that her bio allows us. Again, bios hardly, if ever, encompass all of the wonderful work and contributions of our guests on this broadcast, but at least you'll know something of her. Her name is Sister Anissa Michelle Muhammad. But before I get into that, I definitely want to open up, as we customarily do, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, the one God to whom all praise is due, the Lord of the worlds. We thank Almighty God Allah for his merciful and prophetic intervention in our affairs in the person of Master Fard Muhammad. We thank him for raising up from our midst his messenger, Messiah, the exalted Christ, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, through whom we have been given our beloved and blessed Redeemer. The man of whom I speak is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. In their names, beloved family of viewers and listeners, friends, and if there's some enemies, we greet all of you with the greeting words of peace. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, sir.
And now we welcome our dear sister Anissa Michelle Muhammad to the broadcast. She is a dedicated wife, mother of four, and grandmother of five future giants. She is a proud card carrying member of the Nation of Islam since 1992. Muhammad Mosque, number 27 in Los Angeles, is from where she hails. She serves her nation as the student coordinator of the Ministry of Health and Human Services of the Western region, led by our dear brother Abdul Malik Saeed Muhammad. Her passion is conducting evidence-based research in order to serve the community in the best manner. The foundation of her studies is rooted in the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad's How to Eat to Live. Her overall goal is to help others connect the dots between the validity of what Master Fard Muhammad taught the Honorable or the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad as it relates to the divine chemistry of Allah God. And I'm interested to hear more about that connection. I've never really heard that referred to that in that manner. So I'm very excited about seeing how that's connected. The foods we consume and the poor states of health
All
among
praises due
the
to Allah, dear
indigenous
brother.
people
Thank you so
of the
much.
earth. The Sister Anissa, I'm almost finished. Sister Anissa is currently studying to become a physician assistant with the overall goal of opening her own health and wellness center. And so, having read that again, certainly does not encompass all of what she has accomplished as a member of the Nation of Islam and a member of the human family. But we want to welcome our dear sister speaking about the chemistry of God to Closing the Gap broadcast. Welcome, Sister Anissa Muhammad. I must tell our viewing and listening
All
audience that we're
praises.
experiencing some delay in response. So bear with us. Go right ahead, dear sister.
Thank you, Brother James and Brother Chad, for allowing me an opportunity to speak on this illustrious platform called Closing the Gap Broadcast Network. I admire the work that you do, and I feel it's really, truly an honor. And this topic that I chose about the chemistry of God really came from me reviewing chemistry, because as I'm going back to school to be a physician assistant, I said, okay, chemistry was not my wheelhouse when I took it years ago. Let me review before I have to take that class. And when I really looked into the nature of atoms, when I looked into what neutrons and protons and electrons are, I thought about the magnificence of the human body as God created it to be.
Yeah.
And I connected that to the work that I do in the community, what I have learned studying nursing and public health. And I sat back and said, wow, we are really killing ourselves on a cellular level. And but in a
Mm-hmm.
greater sense, it's not our fault. Let me explain. In our bodies are millions, if not billions, of cells, right? And in each one of these cells is kind of like, imagine, if you will, if you crack open an egg, what do you see? You see
Mm-hmm.
the egg yolk. That's the nucleus of that egg. And an egg is a cell. The egg white is called scientifically the cytoplasm. We don't see all of these little microscopic apparatuses that they call organelles inside of it, but they're there. You have components that are the mitochondria or the energy of the cell. Then you have something called lysosomes that get rid of waste contained in the cell. You have things that synthesize proteins, things that synthesizes fat, and there's a lot going on inside that cell, all of them inside our bodies. So, looking at it from that perspective, and this is a public health perspective, by the way, I started to think more deeply into why the Honorable Elijah Muhammad instructed us all to eat one meal a day every
Mm.
24, 36, or 72 hours, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
And when we look at that wisdom and then compare it to what it is that we've grown accustomed to by way of forced acculturation and forced assimilation when we were brought here in the hulls of ships, we've become indoctrinated into a society and a way of life that is diametrically opposed to the will and way of God. It is diametrically opposed to what we, as the original people of the earth, were accustomed to. So now our communities are laden with diseases that did not exist among us before coming here. And we are eating foods that are not food at all, they're food products. We're living out of boxes instead of in a garden or on a farm. And when we eat these types of foods 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day, on a cellular level, our bodies do not have time to actually expel the waste byproducts of the foods that we have consumed. We have become a culture that is actually addicted to chemicals.
Mm.
Everything that's in a box on a shelf at the grocer's has chemicals in it. For example, I know that there are cereals out there, breakfast cereals that we are taught or told, I should say, are healthy for us.
Mm.
But when you read the box, the ingredients on that box, everything on there, even if it says fortified with this vitamin, fortified with that vitamin, those vitamins are made synthetically in a lab and mixed together inside of whatever that cereal is made of.
Mm.
So we're really not getting the nutrients from the earth that we could. Thus, the prevalence rates of chronic diseases that exist in our communities are actually killing us because we may find ourselves and maybe perhaps relate to this because you've done it yourself. Go to the store and you pick something up that you really had no intention on buying when you went to the store, but it's a chemical need or a chemical addiction, if you will. And there are actually scientists out here that's studying that. And is even a survey that you can take on Yale University's website that will let you know whether or not you're actually addicted to food, but not necessarily the food, but the chemicals that are in the food. Does that make any sense?
Yes,
Yes.
definitely.
Yes, it
Okay, our
does.
praises to Allah. It's
Um,
this topic is so relevant to our survival as a people before we become extinct. This is necessary, this conversation, to help people connect the dots, because before you pick that box of whatever off the shelf at the grocer's, there was a thought that popped in your head at first. You didn't have to follow that thought. You could have rejected the thought, but more often than not, we do not. So it's thought that precedes behavior, and it is the behavior of what we become addicted to or what we are accustomed to eating that we have been taught and trained by this society is healthy for us. What did the Honorable Elijah Muhammad know in the 30s that did he foresee what we're looking at today in our society with regard to chemically laden foods, genetically modified organisms that are being passed off? So I am examining that even now, but I would say the answer to that question is yes, because if you look in our Supreme Wisdom lessons in the problem book, you have questions or statements number 1, 2, 5, and 6 that are talking about chronic diseases. When it's talking about the uncle of Master Farad Muhammad, who died, or what he was doing killed him at the age of 45 years. He was living other than himself. The wife of Mr. W.D. Farad Muhammad weighs other than herself. And therefore, she has rheumatism, headaches, pain in all joints. She can't walk up to the store. And she is troubled frequently with high blood pressure. And it goes on and on. And even in problem number 6, it's talking about the second uncle of Mr. W.D. Farad Muhammad having the same illnesses as the wife of W.D. Farad Muhammad, with an exception of what I found very profound, and is talking about he had fever, headaches, chills, grip, and hay fever. And when I looked up grip, I found out that it's basically a contagious disease like the flu. But when you look at it from another perspective, it's actually describing the symptomatology or the definition of what COVID was.
Now, dear sister,
And
as we
the prevalence rates
forgot about the delay.
yes.
I'm sorry, sis. I forgot about the delay that we are experiencing. I wanted, if you could, proceed with the disclaimer that you wanted to read before we proceed further on with the
Of
show, the
course I
medical
can.
disclaimer. And
Yes, sir.
also, since I have your attention, also, and I
Yes,
know
sir.
it's a delay, but you are talking from documents called the Supreme Wisdom that our viewing and listening audience may not necessarily be really familiar with when you talk about the wife of W.D. Farad Muhammad, the uncle and the second uncle. These things are symbolic and they need explanation. So if you can pause when you make these statements, give a little explanation, because many people are not necessarily familiar with the supreme wisdom. So if you could proceed, this is the first with the
I
medical.
most certainly will. I'll be more than happy to.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, sir. You're more than welcome. All information provided by myself, Anissa Muhammad, and or Minding the Mind to a Healthier Me on the Closing the Gap Broadcasting Network is for informational and educational purposes only. Therefore, we do not, I'm sorry, and therefore does not replace or supersede any advice given to the listeners by his or her primary care or specialty provider. Anissa Muhammad, Minding My Mind to a Healthier Me, nor Closing the Gap Broadcast Network or any of its affiliates is responsible or liable for any illnesses, be they real or imagined, or wrongful death brought about as a result of someone deviating from the advice of one's primary care or specialty provider. Thank you so much for allowing us to make that abundantly clear.
Yes, ma'am.
As Brother James stated, as it specifically relates to the problem book, this book was given to us as a gift from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and he's talking about a state of health, physical, mental, spiritual, and moral health that we were in the 1930s. And even at that time, we had fallen so far away from what God had wanted us to be and how we should be living our lives, especially regarding our health. I was merely emphasizing the health status for Elijah Muhammad was among us. Will that suffice, Brother James?
Yes, to a degree. Some of what you said was kind of cut off.
Thank
But
you all so much for your patience with the delays in the broadcast. Now, I would like to get a signal from Brother Chad or Brother James to let me know that I'm all caught up. We're fine? Okay.
we're fine.
All praise be to Allah. For our listening audience, we most definitely want to thank y'all for, just tuning in and bearing with us. Sometime with technical things, we have those difficulty factor, but our sister, you coming in clear. We most
Okay.
definitely can hear you. Sometimes it's a little
Okay, all praises due to
We're
Allah.
getting what you're saying. Praise be to Allah.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Okay, great.
All right.
There is something called the ecological systems theory that originated from the studies of a psychologist by the name of Yuri Brofenbrenner. And I like this particular theory because he talks about how a person's environment actually shapes how they view life. And that environment at the top is actually something that is passed down through policies and politics. And I find it very relevant because the healthcare system that we know today, we put a lot of stock in it. I'm not saying that we should not see doctors, but we have to look at the structure of the healthcare system in the United States for what it really is. The United States healthcare system is the most complicated healthcare system in the world. And truthfully, this healthcare system actually came out of the United States Public Health Administration. So what we're looking at stemmed from and came out of a public health perspective that a lot of healthcare providers have geared away from, either because they don't know the history or because they are, or how can I say, I was going to say ordained, but not that, because of the dictates of the policies that undergird our healthcare system. The root of our illnesses in present time, we have to be very, very careful and mindful of how we navigate ourselves through this system, because what we think and what we know and what we've experienced as a community oftentimes conflicts with the reality that we experience when we're trying to get our health back on point. In addition to that, chronic illnesses have been on the radar of this healthcare system since the 1960s. They began their research. They published a lot of what they consider top-notch peer-reviewed articles. Since 1960, there has been over 750,000 peer-reviewed articles about chronic illnesses that more than likely had sensible suggestions and recommendations on how to tackle chronic illnesses such as diabetes, asthma, heart disease, high blood pressure, to get in front of what we're looking at today. So my question to the audience is this: in the last 63 years, if our states of condition health-wise, with the assistance of doctors that have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to how to help people manage or eliminate or cure chronic diseases, the question is, do they really want to at all? So the battle is raging now. Is it the doctor's part or is it fault? If you have been a patient and you were diagnosed 7 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago with, say, hypothetically diabetes, and if you have not gotten better over the last 10, 15, 20 years, and you still have that condition and it's getting worse, you should rethink the communication that you have with yourself and with your doctor. It is not the doctor's responsibility to get you whole. It's ours. It's the patient's responsibility. However, the doctor also has a level of responsibility. The doctors are only going to do what the doctors are instructed to do at the healthcare facilities that they work for. And if they want to continue to get government funding at their own private clinics or institutions or entities that maybe they have partnered with someone, they still have to abide by the policies that they have been given. This is why the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and How to Eat to Live are so critical in this day and time. When you're looking at the economics of healthcare, and I'm not speaking about the $4 trillion in debt that this country is in. I'm not talking about 75% of the discretionary funds that is used to help people who are living with chronic diseases. After a while, like right now, they're phasing out Medicare and Medicaid because it's becoming too taxing, economically speaking, on the governmental system that we're looking at. And they're looking at that economic from a public health perspective. Every year, you have individuals that are going back and forth to the doctor every 90 days or so, getting medications prescribed to them. Patients don't ask why they need to take that medication. The patients just follow the doctor's instructions. Truthfully speaking, patients really do not understand what the doctors are telling them. They may act as if they do because they don't want anyone to know that they have illiteracy issues when it comes down to understanding what their doctors are saying. I know this seems to be a lot of random thoughts, but I'm explaining a process by which to help us to connect the dots between our health, this healthcare system, understanding the politics and the economics of health, and how it is directly related to the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and how to eat to live. Take the standard breakfast, for example. In this country, people are either going to Burger King or McDonald's to grab a ham McMuffin or an egg McMuffin with sausage or something of that nature, a potato that really isn't a potato, and then they're drinking something syrupy and sugary. And that's at 7 in the morning. Their bodies have not yet processed the food that they've taken in at 7 a.m. by the time they have their morning lunch or their morning snack time at 10 and 11 a.m. By noon, between noon and 1:30, they're having lunch. Now, mind you, their bodies still have not processed that food that they ate for breakfast and snack. At 3, they're having another snack. Between 6 and 7 p.m., they're having dinner. The whole time, they're accumulating waste inside their cells, inside their bodies. And the messenger of Allah, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, told us that we are digging our graves with our teeth. And he asked us to look at himself as a traffic cop who are trying to slow down our rush to the grave. Providing direct and indirect care so odd years, I have seen almost all of everything that I could possibly ingest with regard to how the system fails us and how we fail ourselves as patients and patrons of the healthcare system. Whether you spend money on a PPO or an HMO, whether you have Dr. Marcus Welby coming into your home making a house call, it's the same thing. It's the same procedure. The system operates the same no matter who you go to for your medical care. There's a process and a procedure. There are diagnostic codes that have to be respected, and there are times when your insurance company will not pay for services that you need. We have to be able to take care of some of these things ourselves. How can we do that? By making sure that we watch our portion sizes, making sure that we eat fewer sweets, no snacks, eat one meal a day, every 24, 36, or 72 hours.
That's right.
And I'm going to pause right here in case there are any questions or comments?
Praise be to Allah. Thank you, dear sister. We do have questions coming in. I want to start with this one by our dear brother Tony Muhammad out of our 7th Regional Headquarter, Mosque 29, and I'll put it on the screen. He said, Assalamu alaikum, dear sister. It is estimated that by 2030, half of the United States population will be diabetic or borderline diabetic. Can you expound on the danger concerning our addiction to sugar and other artificial sweetening chemicals, such as high fructose corn syrup? Can you also expound on how zero-calorie chemicals, sweeteners, are also not good for us?
Thank you, brother, for the question. So I would like to say this, Brother Tony, and thank you. That's a great question. Trajectory on the number of people who will be diabetic or borderline diabetic by 2030 is accurate. People. And by young people, I mean our babies that are between the ages of 10 and 23. They are already diagnosed with diabetes. Right. The incident rates are still coming in the state of California, and the incident rates means the new cases of diabetes. The prevalence rate means the cases that of people who have already been diagnosed. We have become so addicted to sugar, and we have our addiction comes from everything that we pick up in a box and in a bag. It has some form of sweetener in it, up to and including our community's favorite, causing our blood to thicken, which is putting a lot of stress on our arteries. Is creating a backlash of stored fat in the liver, which then that's why they call it non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, because our liver is storing all of this excess glucose that comes from our bodies consuming too much sugar. And because we don't go out in the community and walk around and get certain things, then it's basically us killing ourselves. As it specifically relates to the artificial sweetening chemicals such as high fructose corn syrup, I urge everyone, if you can, to go on YouTube and watch a documentary entitled King Corn. That documentary explains and demonstrates and shows us how high fructose corn syrup is made. It has lye in it. There's a chemical process that is actually being done, and the greatest danger of the most genetically modified plants in this country that is being used. We're getting hit with, I'm going to call it a double whammy, because we're eating a processed chemical called high fructose corn syrup that came into existence in the mid to late 70s for the sole purpose of saving money to food manufacturers. It's inexpensive to make. It's easy to store. And nowadays, it even acts as a form of a preservative because of the other chemicals, additives that have been to it. So the dangers associated to sugar addiction and addiction to other artificial sweeteners And just as Brother Tony put it in his question, sweetening chemicals, we are addicted to chemicals. Sugar is the most addictive substance on this planet. And as with any addiction, you have to wean yourself off of it or just stop cold turkey. 0-calorie chemical sweeteners are just as bad because they're artificial. If you just drink water, that has 0 calories. If you want some, but we don't, everything that is manufactured in a plant, in mass, in huge vats, those are chemicals that they give to people and they passing it off as something healthy. But the fact that it is made from chemicals ought to be a sign to you that it's not good for you. Does that make sense? And I hope and pray, Allah, that I answered your question, Brother Tony. If not, then let me know and we will address it again. But these chemicals, if we're in trouble, because when we're looking at, say, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS for short, they are the entity that pays for Medicare that our seniors get, the health care that they get, and they also pay for Medicaid. In California, they call it Medi-Cal. So when you go to a public facility for your health care, by 2024, it is estimated that they're going to be phased out soon because they don't have the money to continue to treat the people in the capacity that they're doing. By 2030, they're also guesstimating that Social Security is not even going to be what it is in 2023. So where is that going to leave the millions of people in this country who have diabetes, the millions in this country who have heart disease, the millions in this country who have suffered a stroke and are still trying to recover, the millions of people who have COPD and other ailments? And I don't know if any of you are aware, but they're even calling some forms of dementia diabetes type 3. That makes it extremely hard to treat people if we don't want, or should I say, if we don't do our due diligence to correct our own behavior. Because it's like they're washing their hands. In 2020, January 2020, CMS, their final ruling. That's what they're calling it, a final ruling. It's a plethora of services that they used to that they're not doing anymore. Especially if you are going into what they call skilled nursing facilities, we call them nursing homes or rehabilitation centers. If you've had a chronic disease or illness that you've had more than 7 years, they're not going to cover that service for you. They're going to get you in and out of there in 30 days, and you're lucky that you'll get 60 days. So we have no choice if we want to live, to practice how to eat to live.
That's right.
Are there any more questions, Brother Chad?
Yes, ma'am. I get them going. I see Brother Desmond Muhammad, that's out of Georgia, out of Mosque 15B, the student minister. He was saying, and I posted, he said, "You're right on point." He said, "I'm a facility administrator of a dialysis unit. Diabetes is the main cause. We must sound the alarm." Praise be to Allah. Now I'm gonna put this one up right here from our dear sister, Sister Mariam. All right. And she asks, do you by chance have any knowledge of the diabetic test the doctors try and force women to take during pregnancy? I refuse to take it during mine, and my daughter is healthy as a clam, laugh out loud, so to speak.
No, ma'am. I'm not aware of a diabetic test. The only diabetic test that I know that they give the main bloodline when you go back and forth for your CBC or your complete blood panel or your complete metabolic blood panel, that they take a few tubes of blood and they take your A1C. From what I do understand about that, make sure that you're not going to have gestational diabetes, meaning that if you have diabetes or are what they consider pre-diabetic, there is a possibility that your child will be diabetic when they're born and will be overweight. That's the rationale behind that. As far as the validity of it, I have no idea. However, I am aware of people who have astounded doctors by being little bitty petite women giving birth to 10 and 12 pound babies. And it just so happens that those 10 or 12 pound babies did have what they call gestational diabetes, but it dissipated as the child, before the child was 6 months old. So that I do know for a fact. That's the only test that I am aware of. I am a mother of 4. I have 5 grandbabies, various ages, and none of the mothers were asked. And my younger 2 grandchildren are 2 years old. My daughters were not asked to take some sort of diabetic test when they were pregnant with their children. So maybe it's a local thing where you are. I'm not sure. I pray a lot that answered your question. I would do some research on that, dear sister, if you can.
Praise be to Allah. Thank you, dear sister. If I could ask you also, Sister Anissa, if you can talk and share with us as far as to the listening audience, help us to understand the terminology when you say mining my mind to a healthier me.
I'm sorry, sir. Can you repeat that? You were delayed.
Okay. I was asking, could you help the listening audience to understand the terminology when you say mining my mind to a healthier me? What does that mean?
Can you have a healthy body without eating meat? Is that what you said?
Let me if I can you hear us clearly? There's some difficulty. Obviously.
Are you able to put that?
It's actually Sister Anissa, he's asking about the name of the podcast that you anticipate broadcasting, which is Mining My Mind to a Healthier Me. He would like you to explain or to elaborate to the listening audience exactly
Yes, sir.
what that means.
Where it came from.
Right. Where it came from and what does it mean exactly. Very good.
Funny. One morning, I was very tired and I set up to go do my prayers. And I just said, Allah, please just give me 5 more minutes. And I laid back down. But upon awakening again, the image of that tree, I saw it clearly in my head. And my mind was actually me searching inside of myself so that I can figure out what with my own health. In September of 2020, I was on a Zoom and I just saw my face breaking out in these huge hives. And I don't even know where they came from. It was just very weird. And within a week, my skin began to, I developed this rash in various parts of my body. And I went, at the time, there was a shutdown in the clinics because of COVID. And I could not find any answers to what was really going on. So I had to go inward and study myself, study the teachings more thoroughly, to backtrack in my mind, what have I gotten a hold of? Because I thought that I was buying organic food, that I was eating the right thing at the right time, because I was what you call sheltering in place. I was not in contact with a lot of people. So I'm trying to figure out where this strange phenomenon came from. I went to doctors here, I went to specialists here, and even there's this term for darkening skin tones. They call it hyperpigmentation, right? I even went to a dermatologist who told me that, yes, you have hyperpigmentation, and the only thing that we can do about that right now is to give you a prescription for some skin lightening cream.
Skin lightening.
Right.
Wow.
So when I started looking more closely into diagnosing myself, or trying my best to diagnose my own condition, the minding the mind image started to develop more. And I reached out to a brother out here in Los Angeles, a young man who was absolutely brilliant. I told him what I saw in my head. And what you're looking at is what he pulled out of my head. I told him I saw a miner or someone digging under the ground to get to the root of a tree. And in that tree, I wanted the trunk or the root to be the hands, like somebody is like we hold our hands in prayer. Mm-hmm. And I wanted the leaves on the tree to be shaped like a brain. And I wanted a pyramidal structure in the trunk that said mind, body, and spirit, with the spirit at near the root. It was his idea to make the trunk of that tree crystal. The whole point of me using that now as my brand, we all have to dig deeper into ourselves to atone to Allah, God, for what we're doing to ourselves.
Yes, ma'am.
For whatever it is that we're looking for as far as getting our health in order, we have to dig deeply into the thought that precedes the action that results overall into poor states of health. None of us are out of harm's way. None of us are 100% correct or in total states of optimum health. None of us are. We can't be living in this country. We can't be living in this time when we can hold up two oranges and not tell which one is genetically modified and which one is organic. What does organic even mean? It only means that it has carbon in it, and everything in the known universe has carbon in it. But just because it contains carbon doesn't necessarily mean that it's good for us to eat.
That's right.
So that's where the premise of mining my mind to a healthier me. I want to be here to see my great-great-grandchildren.
That's right.
I want you all to be here to see your great-great-great-great-grandchildren. If the messenger says that we can live 120 or more years on this planet by eating the way that Allah has prescribed for us to eat, there is nothing that that man has ever given us that was not true.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be the healthiest me that I can be, and I want that for others. So that's where that brand came from.
Praise be to Allah. Thank you, dear sister, for that wonderful answer. I keep the question going. All right. Assalamu alaikum. A lot of our people say, why should I focus on my health?
Alaikum salam.
Nobody lives forever. How would you respond to this?
I would ask that person, why are they committing suicide? If someone were to come, why should I focus on my health? Nobody lives forever. I would ask them, why are you committing suicide? I would let that person know you should focus on your health because your health will either take you here or take you out of here.
That's right.
That sounds like a person that is not willing to justify why they do what they do in the way that they do it. That one saying, I remember it was a saying in our community some years back, you only live once, so you might as well go and live life to its fullest. Yeah, you only live once, but why are you cutting your life short? Do you know that, and I have been given permission to share this story, who was only 8 years old at the time and was on life support at a hospital because his organs were failing him. They wanted to arrest the mother for neglect because she did not know that her son was diabetic. Of course, she was cleared, but that came about as a result of feeding her child what she thought and what she believed was something that was healthy. And as it turned out, it wasn't so. We should all focus on our health. And a person that doesn't think or consider focusing on their health so that they can be the best that they can be, with all due respect, in my opinion, is a selfish person because they are not fully understanding or grasping how what you do or the concept of what you do or what you fail to do, how it affects you and everyone that's in your circle. So suppose this person that stated that was in their 30s and someone that very seldom goes to the doctor, or when they do, they don't do what the doctor says. And this 30-something person has children. By the time that that person is in their mid to late 50s, early 60s, it is guaranteed that they will more than likely have an illness that will be debilitating them. And they are going to expect other people to help them. They're going to expect their children to take care of them. And because the healthcare system is failing, because of its social policies associated with it, chances are their insurance is not going to cover what they're going to need. So that means that they're either going to be put into a nursing home or a rehab center or a skilled nursing facility. They're going to have to be. Why? Because more than likely they may need 24-hour care, and a family can't stay home with them 24 hours because they still have rent to pay, mortgage to pay, bills to pay. They still have to buy food, in addition to fighting the system to provide in-home support care services for that person who is not ill, who had the mentality that, why should I focus on my health? Nobody lives forever. Nobody does live forever. But I've never met anyone that was on their deathbed that was not pleading to stay here for a moment longer.
That's right.
That's how I would respond to that statement, Brother Kamal.
All praise is due to Allah. You know, dear sister, that's an excellent response, in my humble opinion. And we thank Brother Kamal for his question. What that question, in my humble opinion, indicates to me is a real negative self-image. Can you share with us some of the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad that counter that negative self-image? What in the teachings counters that negative self-image to the extent that people would play fast and loose, if you will, with their life, and the longevity of it is not important to them?
According to the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, that is an individual or group of individuals who have no knowledge of God, no knowledge of self, no knowledge of the environment in which they're living. A person that does not know God cannot know themselves, and a person that does not know themselves nor God could not possibly love themselves. If you have no love for God and you have no love, understanding, or knowledge of God or yourself, you are and have attached yourself to the life of this world, which really is a death style for us. You don't know what's up or down. You don't know what's sideways. You don't know truth from falsehood, according to the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Therefore, you are literally digging your grave with your teeth. We have as a people, we have worth because we don't have any knowledge of who we are. No self-worth. The way that we can combat that is to try to put forth an effort to get to know yourself and fully examine what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is teaching us. And he has stated that if you can prove him wrong, then he would be more than happy to give you $10,000 out of his brother's breast pocket if you can prove anything that he's saying is incorrect. He has often offered his life and sacrificed his life. Take my life if I'm not giving you the truth. And that truth came to him from God himself. And I heard the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan stated this, give us this analogy. We have phones, cars, and other appliances where we look at a manual that will tell us how to best take care of it, right?
That's right.
God gave us a manual called Bible, a manual called Quran. And it teaches us what we should eat and what we should not eat. It teaches us which way to go, which we should stay from. And if I may be so bold as to recite one of the refuge prayers. I seek thy refuge in the Lord of the dawn from the evil of that which he has created. And I'm going to stop right there because the he is not written as capital letters, which denotes that they're talking about God. It's in a lowercase he, which is talking about somebody else. What has he created that's going to create the intense darkness? Because if we're not eating the right foods, it's on a chemical level, on a cellular level, is causing us to not even be able to think clearly. Even the cells of the brain have a chemical chemistry on a cellular level that if we don't have the neurotransmitters that we need in order for us to be able to think clearly, that facilitate focus, that facilitate creativity, that facilitate our ability to focus and zero in on thought processes, then how can we possibly focus on who we are internally in order for us to think more clearly? This chemistry of God is nothing to be played with. It's very, very serious. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad lays it out in a Savior came for us. And he came to give us life so that we can have life more abundantly. They say it in the Bible. We know the reality of that in present time. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is the Savior that we have. We are saviors. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is a savior. And I remembered clearly a few Saviors Days ago at the graduation that we had. When he was done speaking, he started to walk away. Then he stopped and turned around and walked back to the mic and said, "How to eat to live is law." Why did he say that? So all of this is something that we need to really fully examine, because I can go on and on about the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and how it relates to us connecting in how much do I love myself? But what about those that don't have that wherewithal to do that? In all actuality and truth, I had to come out of the state of California and went all the way to across the country to Sister Dr. Darnita and to ask her, "I need a consult. How much are you charging?" Why? She didn't even charge me. That's love.
Wow.
That's love. She sent me a communication and said, "Go to the doctor and tell them this. Tell them I said this." And I did exactly what she said, and I got the result that I was looking for.
Wow.
The result that she knew could happen. So I'm on a crusade now to try to save other people's lens rates or the new cases of autoimmune diseases, inflammatory diseases, people getting diabetes more now faster than ever before, people who have who are lactose intolerant, people who can't stand gluten, who are intolerant, having gluten allergies. Listen, it's gotta be connected to the food that we're eating. Milk and wheat have been on this planet since the day before forever. Why all of a sudden are people now lactose intolerant and can't tolerate gluten? And what is it that's in those things, and gluten especially, and other, that is really triggering a response where the body's immune system is attacking itself? That's like your body declaring war on itself. So who's going to win? If you don't love yourself enough, you're not even going to try to gird up your loins and put on your battle array so that you can win the fight. In order for us to be able to win this battle, this struggle against the Satan of self and the Satan outside of self, we have to be healthy enough to win. I don't know about you, but I didn't come this far to lose. And I pray that those that are listening will understand, because I really think I'm looking at two soldiers that did not get into this battle to lose. We're all in it to win it. Is that right?
That's right.
All praises due to Allah.
Allahu
All
Akbar.
praises due
Thank
to
you
Allah.
for that wonderful response.
Brother James, did I answer your question, sir?
Oh, you most certainly did. You know, a sound mind dwelleth in a sound body. And what I wanted to connect in through that question was what for the mind that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad teachings does that results in the symbiosis or the complementary relationship between mind and body. Many people see us undergo a change once our thinking changes according to the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So I wanted you to talk about that, considering the theme, the chemistry of God, and of course, the theme of your podcast, which is mining my mind to a healthier body. So all praises due to
me. That's right.
a healthier me.
Yes.
But let's talk about the chemistry. But before we do, I see that there are other questions. Brother Chad, you want to give them the opportunity to pose their question in the listening audience?
Okay. This one. What are some specific experiences that you have witnessed that help you to see the importance and precision of what we read and how to eat to live?
I will talk about a couple of cases. One of them that sticks out very much so in my mind to this day. I had a client, may Allah be pleased with him, who experienced some changes after he would leave his dialysis treatments. And it came on all of a sudden, and it got to the point where he would be screaming in pain and will ask them to stop with the treatment. Now, he was doing everything that he could according to what I was helping him with. But I learned that the facility, which is very prevalent out here in Los Angeles, I'm not going to name any names, there's a component of fluid that they use during the dialysis process. The facility changed the brand, which was processed differently one that he had been using. So again, you have chemicals. And if we practice how to eat to live, dear brother, Chad Freeney, we wouldn't have to be on dialysis. Most people who are on dialysis nowadays is as a result of diabetes. And the messenger says in How to Eat to Live, in more than one place, pure in any other bottles of medicine There is no cure in medicine. There's no cure in pills. There's no cure in drugs. So look at it like this, dear brothers and sisters. There's a particular medication that I question. And I know that this is the first medication that they usually prescribe for diabetes, and it's called metformin. Metformin was taken off the market in 1940 because of the harm that it was causing. And now it's back. Whatever it was back in the 40s, perhaps they corrected it. But I do know of some patients who did not have chronic or have kidney disease. They call it chronic kidney disease, CKD. They did not have CKD when they started taking metformin, but because they did not correct their diabetic condition, they still had to stay on it, and their dosage fluctuated. Maybe they started out taking 250 milligrams and it went to 500, and it went back down to maybe 300, and then it went back. All of that depends upon what your A1C is and what you and your doctor have discussed. Over time, the majority of the medications on the market cause kidney problems. So if you have had diabetes 7 years, 10 years, and now all of a sudden you have chronic kidney disease, is it really the diabetes or is it the medication? So those are some of the actual up close and personal experiences that I've had, but I've had some good ones as well. I know a person who, under the age of 40, had a serious heart condition. And there's this, when your heart pumps blood, they call that an ejection factor. And the ejection factor, from what they think or what they say, should at minimum be at least 70 in order for you to be okay and not have an enlarged heart. His was at 12. But when you work with people who if you have patients, advocate for them, fight for them. My fighting for this particular individual, they found out that they had to rethink the treatment that they were giving him because they realized through more extensive testing that he had rheumatic fever as an infant, and that's what caused his heart problem. So therefore, they had to address it differently. I encouraged him to stop using alcohol. I gave him Message to the Black Man as a gift. I encouraged him to practice How to Eat to Live and stop living the lifestyle that he was, and he corrected himself. And the more he leaned toward the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, how to eat to live and how to love himself and have more respect for his life, his ejection factor increased. And they changed his medications. So as a provider, as someone that works with patients, in-home support services person, give them, advocate for them, fight for them the way you would want somebody to fight for your life. You fight for theirs. So when I work with people, because I love these teachings and they have done so much for me, I don't play with people's life because I don't want nobody playing with mine. That sounds fair, right?
That's right.
That's because it is. I mean, the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad saved my life. And I just want to give back. I just want to give back.
Allahu Akbar. Praise be to Allah. We'll keep the questions going. All right, let's go. All right, I'm gonna put this one up. It's more like a testimony, but also a question. It said, peace. Love the show. I saw Minister Farrakhan's latest interview on YouTube, The Ninth Nubian Circle. He looks like he's glowing. Is that from the way he eats, or has he always looked like that?
Mr. Smith, number one, that's in my opinion, that's a question you would have to ask the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. However, I was introduced to the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in the mid to late 80s. And I saw him in person for the first time around November or December of 1989. And I remember that because I had a child. I was pregnant at the time with my third child. And she would not keep still. She moved and kicked so much when that brother came on stage and started teaching. It made me very uncomfortable, but it was okay because I was happy.
Yeah.
I have never seen the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan when he wasn't glowing.
That's right. That's right.
Every time I see him, he travels with his own light. He says he travels with his own atmosphere. So perhaps that is what you see. He is the epitome of faith to me. He is the epitome of what faith is. He is the epitome of his father, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who is the epitome of his father, and that's God in person.
That's right.
Who came in a person of Master Farad Muhammad. So you have that man emanating God, and that's the glow that you see. Maybe food is a factor.
Praise be to Allah. Thanks. All right, we'll keep it going. All right, go to the next one. This is from our dear sister Shauna Joy X. She states, how would you respond to people who say you must eat meat to get protein? Also, how would you respond to criticism from not eating meat because people think it's unhealthy?
Well, I would respond like this. And again, this goes back to the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and how to eat to live. He said, meat is not good for us to eat. He said we could eat chicken, not much. And he said that we should eat fish that weigh between 5 and 10 pounds.
That's right.
But he also specified a certain species of fish that we should eat. If a person believes that they must eat meat to get protein, it is our job, those of us who say we love Elijah and his teachings, and scientific proof to prove otherwise. Meaning, if this person is critical that say that we have to eat meat to get protein, do some scientific research and find other sources of where they can get healthy protein that supports how to eat to live. If a person is critical because they think that not eating meat will make you unhealthy, that's not true. Because in the time of antiquity, the original people didn't eat meat. Ask them, do they think that an unhealthy person built the pyramids?
That's a good question.
Ask them if an unhealthy person was the one that built the pyramid down in Mexico and in Central and South America. Ask them, was it an unhealthy person that put those Olmec heads down in South America? Unhealthy people cannot do great things. Unhealthy people cannot build structures.
That's right.
Of that magnitude, because in number one, they don't have the physical strength. Number two, they would not have the mental capacity to do that if they're unhealthy. What would be that person's measure or criterion to determine what's healthy and what's not healthy? That's even a better question. Because unfortunately, being healthy has become cliche. And I mean, because it's like, okay, so we have a quote unquote health food section in a grocery store. But if you notice, the health food section is not in the produce department. It's a particular station in a grocery store where you look on the shelf and everything is in a box. So if you ask me, that's an oxymoron.
Mm-hmm.
Being healthy and being unhealthy could be just somebody else's perspective or perception of what health is, right? I would stick with what the messenger teaches us. I would do scientific research to combat what it is that they say. And I would go into Quran and I would go into Bible because it's in there. You can look in the book of Jeremiah and find what we're supposed to eat. You can look in the book of law, the first 5 books of the Bible, and it tells you what you should and should not be eating.
That's right.
You can also look in the book of Daniel, 1st chapter, where all they ate was the navy bean. And they looked better than all the king's horses and all the king's men. They looked better. I would go into the Quran, chapter 5, verse 3, and it tells us what foods we should eat and what we should stay away from. There is a lot of protein in the navy bean, a lot of fiber. Every single trace mineral and vitamin that we need to keep our bodies healthy is in that navy bean. It's in that pure milk. It's in that whole wheat bread that the messenger says that we should make ourselves. It's in there. Ask that if you know someone who thinks that they're healthy, ask them to go to the doctor and have them ask their doctor for a complete metabolic panel, and then ask them to show you their labs. Because we may complain about our healthcare system, but this system can diagnose some stuff. And you can't put a twist on it and say, well, this person this and the white man this and no, because that blood came from out your body. And you can directly relate what that panel was going to reveal to what you have been eating and what you have been thinking. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad says in How to Eat to Live that you can drink the purest water and eat the purest food, but if you're not thinking pure thoughts,
that's right,
then you're still going to have and suffer from illness and disease.
That's right.
I hope that answered your question, Sister Shauna Joy.
Praise be to Allah. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. All right, we're going to keep it going. All right. This is a question that I wanted to pose to you. I just put it down so you can understand it. In How to Eat to Live, there's a chapter that talk about many ailments that can be cured. It mentioned eat 1 meal a day and do not eat the food that you know is against you.
That's right.
What are examples of the body telling us it's not functioning at full capacity, or that the food we're eating is against us?
Okay. You can eat something that may, and this is if the food is not spoiled or is not contaminated with bacteria or anything like that. If you eat something and every time you eat it, it causes a pain in your stomach, it causes knots in your stomach, you should examine that food. What you can do is stop eating it and see if the same stomach pain will return. If it doesn't, that's a sign that that food is not good for you. If you eat something like barbecue potato chips or some other junk food or fast food, and if you start to feel weird, like maybe experiencing, did just feel like, oh my God, I need to lay down, I have to go to sleep, or you just feel sluggish, that's your body telling you that you're not functioning at full capacity, and that's you're eating something that is totally against you. Your body is going to tell, because most of those things, the latter of which that I just mentioned, those are laden with chemicals. If you eat something that is as pure as it possibly can get, your body is not going to respond to it in a negative way unless you have a food allergy. For example, I know someone that breaks out in hives. Like my mother had allergies. She couldn't eat eggs. She was allergic to chocolate. She was allergic to fish. So she didn't eat eggs. She didn't eat chocolate, and she didn't eat fish. She ate other things and she did not have a reaction. So what I'm saying is, if you are eating things that are in packages, or you're eating food products like American cheese, if you have difficulty eliminating or having bowel movements, if you are struggling to actually stay awake after you eat, if you have hives, or if your eyes start itching, or if you get this funny feeling like around in this area, those are food allergies. Those are chemical reactions. If all of a sudden you had a lot of energy and you were peppy and you had made plans to do this, and this, and then all of a sudden you ate something that was not fresh, like fresh fruits and vegetables, and then all of a sudden you felt like you needed to go lay down, it was something in that food that caused you to feel that way, and it dulled your senses. It took you off your game. And that's telling me that from a neurological perspective, it's something in that food that's sending messages to every cell in your body and messages to your brain that cause your neurotransmitters to not function in their full capacity. So it's little things like that that helps you to know that food is causing you harm. Is if food is supposed to give you life. And if you feel like death, or if you feel lazy or dull or foggy, or really, really super lazy, like I gotta go lay down, then you need to re-examine what you're putting in your body, because food is supposed to keep you here, not take you away.
Come on.
I hope I answered your question, Brother Chad.
Beautiful. Absolutely. Brother James, you think we could get another one in before we get the closing announcements and everything? All right. Oh, you're on mute, Brother James, but I think you gave me the go ahead, right? Okay.
Yes, let's try to get one more question.
Okay, here we go. All right, this from our dear brother Jim Smith again. He said, I read about swine being bad for us in the Bible. How can we prove it's bad for us other than scripture? That's a great question.
That's a great question.
Okay. Mr. Smith, close your eyes and envision a hog pen. Look, as a matter of fact, while we're sitting here, pull it up on your cell phone. Go to YouTube and look up hogs eating. And look at what they're being fed. Look at how they eat. Look at how filthy they are.
Come on.
They wallow in filth. They eat filth. And if you threw a dead human over in a hog pen, they would eat that.
That's right.
Anything that you put in your body, an animal that is supposed to be for human consumption, that's why it says in scripture, and farmers can bear witness, you're supposed to feed that animal the purest of food, because its meat is going to go into your body for human consumption. So if you're eating a filthy animal, or rather should I say, if that animal is eating filthily, how do you think it's going to affect you? And I'm going to share something with you that I actually witnessed when I was going to school, nursing school. We had to watch different surgeries for about 2 weeks. And then one day we watched 5 different brain surgeries. 3 of those 5 surgeries, the doctors told us that they had to go in and pull the trichina worm out, and told us that those worms had suffered from strokes. They had constant headaches. They were not feeling well. The whites of their eyes had turned a brownish reddish color because they consumed pork. But that wasn't the kicker. The kicker was that when we got out of those surgeries, and my classmates went downstairs to the cafeteria and was eating pork. Like they had watched the surgeries and it didn't faze them.
Ain't that something?
I hope that answered your question, Mr. Smith. That's the proof.
Sister Anissa, can you repeat the name of that
and I'm
worm
not trying to be mean, or I'm not trying to be facetious, but when people ask me stuff like this, I got to give it to them straight.
Absolutely.
That's right.
That's right.
Just look it up. Everything is at our disposal. We got smartphones. Use it smartly. Look it up.
Wow.
Can you repeat the name of that worm again? Just so that it's clear. You broke up a little bit when you were talking about it.
Muhammad Rasulullah. The trichina worm.
There.
TRI. Can I do what, sir? Spell it or?
No. You did
the
exactly
trichina
what I asked. I just wanted
a worm
you to
that
the name
embeds itself into our intestines.
Yeah.
It's a parasite. It's a parasitic worm. Okay.
All praise is due to Allah. Thank you. Thank you, dear sister. I want to definitely present these books from which our sister is taking her content. How to Eat to Live books 1 and 2. Must have in your library, and not just to sit on the shelf, but to guide your dietary practices as well as your spiritual and mental capacities as well, and activities. How to Eat to Live by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Praise be to Allah.
And may I just say lastly, if there, I have an ebook that's entitled Minding My Mind. I'm giving an introduction to a greater book on keys to the successful patient. Download the book at mindingmymind.co and order that book. And you'll be amazed at the content that's in it. And if you follow the steps that's in that book, that simple little book, you will be amazed at the change that it can come over, that will happen in your life as it specifically relates to your health. Thank you. It's going across the bottom of the screen right now. Get that ebook. Thank you.
All praises due to Allah.
Right.
Okay, we've come to that point in our broadcast where we enter into our closing announcements. But I want to thank our dear sister, and don't go anywhere, please. I want to thank you for honoring us with your presence, allowing this interview. But please don't go anywhere at this time. We want you to have closing remarks. We want to go into our announcements, and then we'll get right back to you, Sister Anissa.
All righty. Thank you. We also want to send a special shout out to our dear sister, Sister Stala, who is not here tonight, but want to give the greetings on her behalf to our listening audience. You know, she was missed and she would love to have been here.
That's right.
She is taking care of business as usual sometime, and she have to, get a little break. And we don't dock her for it. We are very appreciative of her. So sometimes that's how it is. We got a lot going on in our nation.
That's right.
So I'm honored to fill in for her. I won't do it as good as her, but hey, she's worked for the Final Call and she promote that Final Call. But
that's right.
I'm here to tell you we want to support the Final Call newspaper as you see it out there in the streets in every neighborhood, every city, every nook and cranny. If you see the brothers out there on the corner, make sure you pick up one of those Final Call newspaper. Don't get one just for yourself. Get one for a neighbor, a co-worker, or somebody else that you feel will enjoy this. Also, if you have the chance, you can log on and get the digital subscription at finalcalldigital.com. That way it can go to your email and you can just tap on it and check it out in modern time. If you get a chance, you can also go to store.finalcall.com to order some of the latest tapes, the videos, books, etc. for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and also the research team. So go on store.finalcall.com to order your latest. All right. We also want you to tune in to finalcallradio.com. And this right here is free. Download the app and you can listen to the words, the lectures, the music of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan 24/7. Family.
That's right.
Make sure, most definitely, you go and you do that. All right. Dear family, we want to thank those who are tuning in, whether it's your first, second, or your third time. And if you heard something tonight and you believe that it is good and it's truth for us as a people, we want to encourage that you also go to www.noi.org/join and fill out the digital form that you see here on the screen so that someone can get you started, that you can learn more about the Nation of Islam by Allah's grace. Thank you. And we also want to encourage those, if you're out and about or in the Bay Area,
That's right.
please come and visit us at Mosque number 47. I will be giving a lecture tomorrow, inshallah, called Nation Building, Being United by Principles. All right. Visit us at Muhammad Mosque number 47, 5508 North 50th Street, Tampa, Florida. All right. 33610. And if you're not in the Bay Area, report to your nearest study group or mosque. And if you can't drive, you're not around the corner from the nearest study group or mosque, you can tune in to hear part 2 from our dear brother and student assistant minister to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, student minister Ishmael Muhammad, who done a wonderful, phenomenal job last week.
Yes, sir.
So nice, he got to do it twice. So he coming back this Sunday with part 2. All right, so tune in at www.noi.org, family. And we thank all our listening audience for tuning in. We ask that you continue to tune in, to continue to share, continue to go to our YouTube channel, subscribe if you haven't. All right, and stay connected. We thank you for giving us your time, your ear, and we thank you, our dear sister Anissa, on behalf of the 7th Regional Student Minister, Brother Patrick Muhammad, and the believers in the 7th region. I also wanted to give you the greetings also of Assalamu alaikum, dear sister. All right.
Okay.
Return the greetings to them, please, especially Brother Minister Patrick. You know he hails from Los Angeles, right?
And please, on a personal note,
yes, assalamu
alaikum salam. On a personal note, please give our dear brother, the student regional minister, Abdul Malik Saeed Muhammad, give him our love and our greetings personally from me, Brother James Muhammad. I've known him for quite a while.
I will, I promise.
So tell him we love him and we look forward to him being back on the program, back on the show.
Yes, sir.
Praise be to Allah.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
I promise
very
I
good.
will.
Still trying to navigate through these lags.
Yes.
So please forgive me if I sound a little disjointed in my expression.
Praise be.
All right. Lastly, dear family of listeners and viewers of our program, once again, I want to reiterate our appreciation to you for taking time out of your busy schedules to be with us every Saturday, Closing the Gap broadcast. We also have, I don't know if Brother Kamal has access to it, but we also have a number of other broadcasts which has caused us to become a network. If we could display them, Brother Kamal, we certainly want the people to support and tune in to our affiliate broadcasts. If you have that flyer, there it is. Thank you. As you can see, we have at least 8 broadcasts, with this one included. We want you to tune in. We have it on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. We're going to be sending out that flyer to as many of our viewing and listening audience as possible. We're going to post it on Facebook as well as YouTube and Instagram. But tune into the Closing the Gap broadcast network. We can pretty much guarantee you will hear from the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad through these esteemed hosts, truth that will set you free. We wouldn't have it any other way. All praises due to Allah. We are growing in our network. I want to, Brother Kamal, if you would put up our solicitation for those who might want to be a part of the network. If you can put that up. There. We are expanding. We're looking for production techs, marketing techs, graphic designers, new content creators, revenue generation, merchandising, those who have knowledge of that. We want to get into that. And on the point of merchandising, of course, this would be to supplement the costs of producing these broadcasts. And on that note, we'd like to ask you to help us. You can go to Cash App at $CTG Broadcast. If you'd like to show your financial support, once again, that's $CTG Broadcast. You can also donate through PayPal, which is jkingdom1 at AOL.com for PayPal. And lastly, Zelle, closing the gap broadcast at gmail.com. We want to thank all of you, those who have supported, are supporting, and we want to thank you in advance for your continued support. We anticipate our dear sister frequenting these airways by Allah's grace in the very, very near future. We just have to work out some time slots. But I'd like you, if you would, and I've always asked our viewing and listening audience to send us your comments, your responses to the broadcasts that we have offered thus far. You can make your comments, ask your questions, and also declare your desire, if you will, to be a part of the network by writing us at closingthegapbroadcast@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from you. All praise is due to Allah. So I want all of us to anticipate hearing, seeing, and being edified by mining. I don't know if that's the title of. So how do you say it, Sister Anissa? Okay. I don't know if she's hearing me.
Mining my mind to a healthier me.
All praises due to Allah. So be on the lookout for more information under that particular theme. We want to welcome our sister to the network as we are growing. That's by right. Allah's grace. I need to mind my mind to a healthier me, and I'm sure I'm not in a class by myself. That's right. That's right. Welcome, dear sister, and may Allah continue to bless you.
Alhamdulillah.
All right. Okay, then. Any last remarks, closing remarks, Sister Anissa?
Thank you all so much. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, well, praise be to Allah.
Thank you.
Thank you, dear sister. And now let's go to our close of the broadcast. May Allah continue to bless you. Tune in next week, same time.
I just want to thank everyone who tuned in. Okay. I am grateful for the question of love and support, and I especially thank my sponsors, Closing the Gap. Thank you all so much for having me. I really, truly appreciate it. Assalamu alaikum.
All praises due to Allah. Well, we got through it by Allah's grace. All praises due to Allah. Let's go to the close.